Welcome to the Transition Planning for Students with Disabilities and Medical Conditions presentation. Throughout this presentation, we will discuss what the Student Accessibility Services at Lakehead University does, how students can register with the SAS office, and what is required to register. We will also discuss accommodations, the responsibilities of students registered with the SAS office, and other supports that Lakehead University offers. Some differences between high school and university will also be highlighted. At Student Accessibility Services, we set up accommodations for students who have disabilities and/or medical conditions. We can also facilitate testing for students who may have a disability. Examples of disabilities include ADHD, learning disabilities, mental health disabilities, mobility impairments. Medical conditions can be permanent or temporary. Examples include, but are not limited to, diabetes, Crohn's disease, arthritis, broken bones, concussions, hypertension, chronic pain, and migraines. To register with SAS, a student must first self-identify their needs to our office. This means that a student must make first contact with the SAS office. This can be accomplished by contacting SAS to make an appointment with an advisor. Student Accessibility Services requires up-to-date documentation to set up accommodations for students. If you have a disability and/or medical condition, please collect any documentation you have prior to your appointment with an advisor. Documentation can be in the form of a psychological assessment, a psychoeducational assessment, neurological assessment, an IEP, IPRC minutes, and medical documents such as a doctor's note, medical assessment or report, or the Lakehead University Medical Documentation Form. If you are not sure what type of documentation that you need, SAS can help you. Contact SAS to book an initial consultation. During your first appointment with an SAS advisor, the advisor will review your documentation, determine what accommodations and supports are required, will assess your academic and technology needs, as well as answer any questions that you may have. A second appointment may be necessary to formally set up accommodations. It is important that you provide SAS with updated documentation. For example, if you are a student who has been diagnosed with a learning disability, your documentation, most likely a psychoeducational assessment, must be no older than 4 years unless it was completed after the age of 18. If you had an IEP or an IPRC in high school, you will be asked to provide documentation from a qualified practitioner who is certified in the area of your disability or medical condition. So why is updated documentation important? To properly accommodate you, we need to know what your current functional limitations are. This cannot always be achieved with outdated documentation. Sometimes students worry because their documentation is not up to date, and they think that they will not be accommodated in university. However, if a student is in the process of getting assessed for ADHD or learning disability or a medical condition, SAS can put accommodations in place for one academic term, allowing time for an assessment or diagnosis. SAS can work with students to help set up assessments and discuss funding options. If you do not have any documentation and do not know what type of documentation you need, make an appointment with an SAS advisor who would be happy to help. After a student's initial meeting with SAS, a second appointment may be required to set up accommodations. This appointment is called an intake appointment. During this appointment, accommodations are discussed between the student and the advisor based on the documentation provided to SAS. The agreed upon accommodations are then included on the student's confidential accommodation form. This form is distributed to your professors or instructors each semester. The form lists only the accommodations that the student is eligible for. It does not list disability or disability-related functional limitations. On the screen is an example of a confidential accommodation form. The form has the student's name and student number, as well as the student's classroom or lecture and test accommodations. A list of courses the student requires accommodations in is also included on the form, as the professors for these courses will receive the form. There is no information relating to the student's disability and/or medical condition. SAS can provide a variety of accommodations. They include, but are not limited to, the following: extra time for tests and exams, alternate textbook format, assignment extensions, the use of assistive technology such as a computer and/or software such as Kurzweil, Dragon, and Read and Write, breaks, distraction-reduced environment, access to class notes, audio recording of lectures, and tolerance of spelling and grammar, just a few others to mention. Accommodations at the post-secondary level are based on a student's documented functional limitations and not the diagnosis. For example, students with a diagnosis of ADHD might not have the same accommodations as their functional limitations may be different. There is no set standard accommodations for particular diagnoses. Once accommodations are in place, students must still take an active role in the accommodation process. They can do that by completing their intake appointment at the beginning of each term. This can be completed in person with their advisor or can be completed online. Students must also reach out to their SAS advisor if they need revisions to their accommodations or have accommodations that require contact with an SAS advisor. Students are also responsible for booking tests, exams, and quizzes in a timely manner. Instructions for bookings and other SAS procedures are provided to the student during the intake appointment. Students should also pay attention to communications emailed to them from SAS, as they can include important information such as exam bookings, new procedures, and upcoming events. Appointments can also be booked with an SAS advisor for help with time management skills, note-taking techniques, test and exam taking strategies, study skills, and textbook reading skills. SAS also puts on workshops and presentations throughout the year that focus on test and exam taking strategies, as well as test and exam preparation. These are open to all SAS students. The Bursary for Students with Disabilities, or BWSD. This is a bursary available to students with disabilities to help cover the cost of disability-required equipment and/or services. This can include computers, computer software programs, note takers, and tutors. This bursary is tied to OSAP, and you must be eligible for at least $1 of OSAP to be able to access this funding. The equipment and services funded through the bursary must be recommended by the SAS office and based on documentation provided by the student. Accommodations are different in university. mainly because the student is more in control of their accommodations and the process is more confidential. For example, students are responsible for requesting assistance from SAS. We cannot reach out to a student based on communication from a third party, such as a family member, friend, or professor. Another difference is that a student must meet the essential requirements of a course or program with their accommodations. There are no modified courses. Students also do not have to disclose their disability and/or medical condition to their professors. This is unlike high school where teachers know the student's disability. Information about a student registered with our office cannot be shared without the student's consent. This includes parents. Students have control over who can be included in communications with the SAS office. Many students worry that the use of disability services will show up on their university transcript. Registering with the SAS office and using SAS services has no impact on your transcript. There are some big differences between high school and university. Students have more freedom and choice in university. Students can pick and choose the courses they take depending on the program they are in. There is no set school day as courses are planned throughout the morning, evening, and nights. You may have large gaps between courses or have days where you have no classes at all. Classes can be much larger than in high school. Some courses may have hundreds of students in a large lecture hall. This is particularly the case in first and second year classes. Students are also expected to purchase their textbooks. In high school, your textbooks are provided to you without cost. In university, the student purchases textbooks. You may have multiple textbooks per course that you need to buy. You can buy them new or used. To save some money, you can ask the professor if you can use earlier editions of the textbook. One major point is that students are responsible for their own education. This means that it is up to the student to attend class, complete assignments, write tests and exams, participate in class, and complete course readings. Due dates for assignments are likely not flexible. If you miss a due date, your assignment may not be accepted by the professor, or you could be penalized. For example, the professor may take off 10% per day that the assignment is late. And this ties into the next point, and that professors do not check in to see if you completed your work or contact you if your work is not submitted. It is assumed that you did it. To keep you on track, it will help if you organize and manage your tasks. You may have assignments due at the same time in multiple classes and tests and exams in between. It can be difficult to attend class, study, work on assignments, and write papers without adequate organization and planning skills. It is important that you come up with a method that suits you to keep you on task. SAS can help you if you struggle with planning and organization. Just talk to your advisor. Keeping in mind the point above, most of your study time occurs outside of class time. Class time is mainly devoted to lectures or labs where you are being provided with the material that you need to learn. There is little time to reflect on what you have learned during this time. The reflection and studying of the materials is mainly accomplished outside of class. You will spend more time studying than you do in lectures. Lastly, you may not receive a rubric for assignments and tests. In high school, you would have likely received a rubric for all assignments in all classes. In university, be prepared not to receive one. Instead, the professor should discuss what they are looking for in an assignment or paper. The following are a few tips to help you be successful in a university setting. First, be aware of your strengths and weaknesses. This can be particularly important for students with disabilities and medical conditions. Get to know yourself and your abilities prior to deciding what program to take at the post-secondary level. Remember, you are still expected to meet the essential requirements of the course or program with your accommodations. There are no modified courses. Choose the right program. Research the programs that you are thinking of applying to. Some programs require presentations, trips, placements, and clinicals that some students may not be able to participate in depending on their disability or medical condition. You can look up programs on the Lakehead University website and see what courses are required to graduate from that program. You can also contact the department if you have any questions related to the program. You can also contact SAS if you have any questions or concerns about your disability and/or medical condition in relation to program requirements. You can also enhance your time management and planning skills. This point was addressed earlier, but they are essential skills to have to be successful in university. Some students use an agenda, their phone, or whiteboards to keep track of assignments, tests, and papers. Find a method that works for you. It is also beneficial if you get involved in university activities. Lakehead University offers many sports, activities, and clubs that students can participate in. Some programs have clubs specific to them, such as engineering. Intramural sports and exercise classes are also popular. By participating in these activities, you can meet other students, make personal and academic connections, build a support system, and help relieve stress and anxiety. If you find that you are struggling personally and/or academically, ask for help. It is important that you know what supports Lakehead has to help you address these issues. Lakehead University offers many supports for students. The following resources are meant to help students academically, financially, and personally. The first resource is Student Central. As the name implies, students contact Student Central for help and guidance with a variety of concerns, including those related to academic advising, financial support, and course registration. The Student Success Center focuses on content meant to help students achieve success at Lakehead University through providing tutoring, academic preparation center sessions, and writing workshops. They also have a career zone to help students find jobs. For personal and health-related concerns, students can access the counseling and physician services at Student Health and Wellness. Student Health and Wellness also puts on wellness workshops throughout the year. At the Lakehead University Student Union, or LUSU, students can find information about bursaries and scholarships, can access the student food bank, receive their bus passes, and can find out information on the Lakehead Health and Dental Plan. The Indigenous Student Service Center helps Indigenous students by providing services including academic support, counseling, and tutoring. They also put on various cultural activities throughout the year. The International Students Office has the English Language Center that helps students who struggle with English as a second language. They also set students up with Lakehead's Study Abroad program and also provide academic advising for international students. Tuition and fee-related concerns can be brought up to the Financial Service Office. For academic complaints or concerns, students can contact the university's ombudsperson. A student can make a complaint about the inappropriate behavior of another student or professor. The ombudsperson is supposed to take a neutral position, contact the appropriate parties, and work to resolve the issue. The Office of Human Rights and Equity also deals with complaints and resolution. However, the issues that are discussed here have more to do with human rights and equality. For example, students can contact this office if they have concerns that are creed-based, about gender equality, involve abuse, or involve family matters that are impacting their academics. Now that we have discussed other Lakehead University resources, I will highlight some additional high school transition resources put out by the SAS office. The first is the Transition Preparation Planner. The Transition Planner provides information on the accommodation process, as well as discusses what a psychoeducational assessment is and why it is important. Differences between high school and university are also explained. The second resource is a student checklist. This checklist details what documentation is required for different disabilities. If you have any questions or would like to make an appointment with an advisor, please contact sas@lakeheadu.ca. Thank you for viewing this presentation.